Introduce Professor David Wolber, who is a faculty member here in the Department of Computer Science at USF. Professor Wolber provides students from across the university an introduction to coding and computer science, pardon me. His Appinventor.org course in a box teaching materials have served as a template for hundreds of courses at the K-12 and university level, and as well as for the mobile computer science principles advanced placement curriculum. And today, Professor Wolber will be discussing his latest book on drag and drop coding for prototyping, rapid development, and education. So please, without further ado, help me welcome Professor Wolber.
Hi, everyone. Oh, I guess people are still popping in. Anushka. Okay, welcome everybody. Let me share my screen and bring up this little presentation I got. John, I don't know why I guess you're coming up as the thing. Okay, I'll just leave it like this. Hi, welcome folks. So I'm going to talk about drag and drop code with Thunkable. And I'm going to talk about prototyping, rapid development a little bit, and a lot about kind of CS education. And thanks everyone for being here. It's great to see some folks I haven't seen for a while. And thanks for coming. Okay, so today, you're gonna build two apps, including a Meet My Classmates app, and you're gonna learn a tool for rapid prototyping development. I know some of you have used Appinventor or Thunkable before, but I'm gonna show you some new things in the language Thunkable that I think will be interesting to those of you. And those of you that haven't used one of these tools, I think you'll really like it, and you can kind of add it to your arsenal of stuff to build. The other things we'll talk a little bit about kind of early CS education and the programmer divide. All right, so that's our goal. And if you can, go ahead and snapshot this link or grab this link. It's bit.ly/thunk_USF, and that's this talk. And it'll be nice if you have it because there's some stuff in there that you'll want to kind of be able to grab and stuff. Any questions or whatnot before I get going? Okay, so I want to do a 3-minute, I was thinking of breakout sessions, but I think our group is pretty small. So I'm just going to bring up the gallery here. And, the question is, what language did you first learn to code with, and was it a pleasant experience? Okay, so this is the question, and I just want to kind of go around and ask everybody that question. And John, I'm going to put you on the spot. Your first, what was your first coding language that you tried?
I bought a book on Objective-C, and it was a painful experience. That was my first attempt at programming. It didn't go well.
Good, thank you. How about you, Terry?
My first language was Python, and I'd never written a line of code before. I didn't even know what coding was, and it was painful. It's not fun.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you. If you don't mind, you don't have to, but if you can turn your video on just for a few minutes, that would be great. Alex Pham, how about you?
Hi, yeah, so my first was, I think, C++. I was trying to make a private server for video games, so I was just on forums, trying to learn, and it was also not a great experience.
Cool, good, yeah, good. How about Alex Bradshaw?
Yeah, my first language was Python, in CS 110 at USF. But I loved it. I feel like I've been playing video games for a while, and there's a lot of things you can kind of recreate because it is all just code. And I just had a really fun time just making lists and random number generators and all that other stuff. So
yeah. Interesting. And did you do coding prior to coming to USF?
No, that was it.
Oh, you just jumped right in. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anushka, how about you?
My first language was Python in high school, and it was really, really hard at first, but eventually I started to get it, and I really did like it, but it was horrible at the beginning.
Yeah, good. Okay, cool. Thank you. And this young man, introduce yourself. I can't quite see who you are.
are you referring to me?
Oh, Edmund. Okay, that's Edmund. Sorry, go ahead, Edmund.
Okay, yeah. I think the first language I learned was actually processing. I think that was pretty fun, but that's because we used it more in the concept of like creating some visual art. So I think that
Yeah,
was
nice. Yeah. Processing's one where you actually get to create stuff, that's visual and cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
I
nice
remember
language.
one of our assignments was like we had to make like Sierpinski's triangle. That was pretty fun. Cool.
Nice. Yeah. No, I think it is a good tool. Okay. So anyway, thanks for everybody for sharing that. And I'm going to go ahead and just talk a little bit, this programmer divide, and I'll talk about it a little more later, but just this idea that, computer science is, very, elite, right? I mean, very few people can code. And, in terms of jobs and kind of opportunities, being able to code is of great help. So anyway, kind of getting rid of this program divide is a big important thing to me. And what I really think about with computer science, what I've spent most of my career working on is possibilities, and that's kind of what teachers do, right? But also in kind of my research and my kind of scholarly work, it's been trying to kind of facilitate possibilities for people, and in computer science, trying to kind of expand who can kind of get involved with this, and make it a much more diverse, inclusive place. And that's kind of my interest level. I think most of you know me, so I'll kind of go quickly over some of this stuff. But I was a chair for a long time. I've written Appinventor books. And I run this thing, appinventor.org. Anyway, let's talk about a little bit of these. I think in 2009, there was no really visual language. There was something called Scratch at the time, but I was teaching some robot stuff for beginners. And this teacher from Mills College, Ellen Spurtis, she came to visit me at USF, and she was working at Google as a software engineer, and she says, we're building this new language. And basically I went to this workshop and ended up teaching the first class in Appinventor anywhere. Okay. And since that time, this has been kind of my passion, is this kind of languages. So anyway, that's I wrote a book called Appinventor 2, and I wrote it with the creator, kind of the director, Hal Abelson, who's an MIT professor. He had taken a 2-year sabbatical to Google, and then also 2 of the engineers, including Ellen. And then, we started this class called Computing Mobile Apps on the Web. It got real popular and got some kind of local notoriety, a San Francisco Chronicle article. We got some notations in the New York Times. And people were, try to think back, in 2010, 11, mobile phones were, maybe kind of everybody had them then. I don't know if you all had them at that point. You probably did, maybe for a few years, but people were just figuring out, what to do with them, right? And anyway, at MIT, they had this idea of let's make something where people can actually create with them. So that's what we did. I run a site called appinventor.org. A bunch of USF students built this thing, and it's an educational site, a bunch of video, and it's got a lot of stuff also for teachers, so people can use this site to build classes. And we call that part. Oh, sorry, just wanted to mention we got an award for one of the best apps and websites for teaching and learning from the American Library Association. But this course in the box is what teachers use. And it's, a lot of K-12, so middle school, high school teachers and college teachers have kind of used all this stuff to kind of design their classes. So that's been a really fun, cool thing. Also, San Francisco Unified School District, there's Andrew. I don't know if anybody knows Andrew, but he teaches in our department now. He teaches CS 107, but he works for the San Francisco Unified School District, and they've built completely Appinventor based middle school curriculum, which is pretty cool. We've had a bunch of students from USF have gone and worked in the middle schools and worked with the district to get this stuff set up. I've also worked with mobile CSP. There's now AP, what's called computer science principles. And this is a big deal. Computer science, the AP course in high schools used to be the least enrolled AP course, okay? And now it's like tripled because of this computer science principles. I don't know if any of you are young enough where you might have taken it, but anyway, it's a big deal now, and it's made some big inroads. And this mobile CSP is like the Appinventor flavor of it. It's also worked with Technovation, which, Technovation is a program for young women. It's an entrepreneurship plus coding program. It's worldwide, this huge, great program. And they use both Thunkable and Appinventor and that. And if you're interested in getting involved with your program like this, definitely let me know, and I can help connect you. It's really great to go teach and work with these. This is mostly girls, but what they do is they take on a project, they build some software, and then pitch it, and then they have like this world pitch night, and they bring in like angel funders and stuff. It's really, really cool event at the end. We got a book chapter out recently, just wanted to mention. And then I just got done the book on Thunkable, and the ebook's now available. And so I'm very happy about finishing that. But it's a cool book. And if anyway, I'll talk about a little bit about later. So kind of the idea is, in your first coding course, what if you were able to build an app for your phone, and even before the professor went over the syllabus? Okay, and this is what I'm doing in CS 107 now. I walk in the first day. The great thing about Thunkable compared to Appinventor is it's cross-platform. So anybody can code an app, immediately. They take out, I basically say, take out your phone, and on that first day, everybody builds a little app. Okay. Anyway, I want to get everybody to, I don't know how many of you have used Appinventor or Thunkable, but I want everybody to kind of try the environment real quickly and build an app. Okay. So I'm going to kind of show you a little bit, but if you can grab this link and go to slide 15, you can see what, the instructions that are going to be there. And if you've already done it, maybe you can help others that might need some help. But let's go ahead and try this. And I'm going to show you in a second, but you're going to, on your laptop, you want to go to thunkable.com and register for a free account. Let me bring this guy up. Okay. And create a new project. So you need to do that on your computer, and then on your phone, go to the App Store and install Thunkable Live. Okay, so you need to do two different things. On your computer, register at thunkable.com, and on the App Store, install Thunkable Live. And John Bruno, you got to be doing this as well. All right. Everybody okay? Let me know if you have any questions on doing this. And if you can, either raise your hand or just say something. Let me know if you're ready to proceed. Okay, so I'm at Thunkable, and I'm just going to show you, go through the steps of kind of creating a new project. And oops. Okay, and basically you just want to click on create a new app and give it a name. So I'm just going to call this one Say It. Okay, so we're just going to build a quick app where you click a button and something gets said. Okay, so I'm creating the app. I can also, on my phone, if you downloaded the Thunkable Live, open that app. So you have both those running. I actually have my phone being projected here. So let me see. So I got my tablet running here. And I'm going to open up Thunkable. And as soon as it signs in, it's going to show me my app that I'm building. So the one nice thing about Thunkable is as you build stuff, you can test it right on the phone. So if I click on live test, my app doesn't do anything, but it's going to show up. It's blank right now. Okay, so I'm going to drag in a button. Okay, and on the button, I'm just going to change the text to like Say It. Okay. And then, so Appinventor's got this designer, where you can kind of show what the interface is going to look like. And then it's got a blocks editor where you actually code the blocks. So I'm going to click on blocks, click on button 1. And when button 1 click, I want something to happen. I got to go back to the designer for a second. I need one more component, and the component is called the text to speech component. Okay, so I'm going to go down, and under voice, there's something called text to speech, and I'm going to drag that out. Okay, so I've got my button and I've got my text to speech component. And then over in my blocks, when the button gets clicked, I want to basically speak something. Okay, and I can just say, USF CS rocks. But you can say, anything you want, of course. Okay, now if I live test this on my phone, actually, you're not going to hear this. If I test it there, if I close my phone, I can also just test it directly in Thunkable. There's this little preview, so I can test it here. And when I test it here, USFCS rocks. It'll just say whatever I said on the button. So anyway, hopefully everybody has been able to build that. Anybody having issues or questions on how to build that app? John, how you doing?
I think I froze my computer.
Oh, okay.
It's gone a little slow, but I have a
Any
slow
other
machine,
folks?
so that's it.
Oh, that's okay. Any other folks that have not used Thunkable before? Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna move on and go from there. So anyway, if you didn't get a chance to finish this, you definitely finish it in a second. My hope was to give everybody just a little taste of what Thunkable can do. Oh, sorry, I just wanted to mention one thing. So, when with Thunkable, the nice thing is immediacy. So you can live test it. So as you're developing, you can watch it on your device and see how it's working. But that's just really emulating, right? It's really running it through Thunkable Live. But you can also deploy, it takes about 10 minutes, but it's cross-platform, so you can get a native iOS or native Android app immediately. So it's pretty cool stuff. And on iOS, you can only install one such app. So they have the rules where you got to get through the App Store. You can also do web apps with the Pro edition of Thunkable, which is like $25 a month. All right, but you can upload your apps to the App Store if you want. So look, I just want to talk about Thunkable as a language. I'm going to show you some coding stuff with Thunkable as I go through this. And kind of the big issue with this is the problems, right? That Thunkable provides is you can choose blocks instead of typing code. That's what visual languages give you. And instead of that initial kind of introduction where you're writing command line terminal programs and you've got errors being barked at you and you're building kind of not really that cool stuff. Sometimes you are, right? Depending on what you like. But you're definitely not building visual stuff, right? So choosing blocks is a nice way to do things. The other thing is kind of immediacy, right? No setup. You can go to thunkable.com and right away start coding. And Code Academy and code.org kind of provide that, but it's just kind of programming exercises, right? You're not really creating things. And so that's a big deal about Appinventor and Thunkable. Probably the biggest thing, and think about this from a languages perspective, is event handlers are primitive in the language. Like if you think about Java or JavaScript even, and setting up like a button click, right? It is not an easy thing to do. Like it's incredible that, oh, I want to code something, when I click this button, it turns green. That's really hard, right? It's not something you're even taught to do usually in a first year class, amazingly enough. The really great thing about Appinventor and Thunkable is they provide these high level event handlers. You just drag them out and they're really the main structure of your program, right? Your app is basically a bunch of these event handlers. You drag them out and you can say when this button is clicked, and then you put blocks inside and that's the response, right? I just got some examples. Timer.fires allows for animation, right? Because the event in this case is just time passing. Accelerometer changes. So you can, if you've got a tablet or your phone, as the user is, kind of moving the phone around, you can respond to that pretty easily, right? Very high level. If you've got a database, like if that database gets changed, you can respond. And you can even have like cloud database stuff. And think about that compared to like listeners in Java or JavaScript. Another thing that I'm going to show you, and I'll show you in a second, is this thing called stored and cloud variables. And really kind of the fancy name is persistent variables. So think about how you code, and you typically code your Java or your JavaScript, whatever it is, and then you do some other stuff to connect to some database, and it's just like an extra big step. And that's fine, and you need to do that for for kind of main projects that are running in the real world and have huge amounts of data. But for other apps, it would be nice if you could kind of do persistence more quickly. And let me just kind of show you how that works in Thunkable. And let's see if I can find my Thunkable screen. So I'm going to show you, I've got this thing called an Appreciate app. Okay, so let me open that up. And it's just, it's got a text box where you can enter stuff, and then it shows you whatever you've put in. in a list box. Okay. So if I preview it, you know, I can type in, okay, I love sunshine. That's what I appreciate today. Okay. And, you know, the list shows up. So, you know, just a simple posting app, right? That you can build. So let me just show you the blocks. And I've got this variable notes. And essentially when the screen opens, whatever's in that list, I want to show that in my list viewer. And when I add items, I want to insert the thing in my list and then show my list in the list viewer. Okay, so pretty simple. Of course, when I run this, notice whatever I typed in before is gone, right? So I have to type in sunshine again. But the idea is it's not persistent, right? So every time I run this, sorry. So if I get out and then preview again, my data is gone. Okay, because it's not persistent. All right, so normally speaking with a language, you would have to, you know, have this big database part, and, you know, after I make a change, store it to the database, bring stuff back in. With Thunkable and persistent variables, you can kind of designate a variable as either stored or cloud. Okay, stored means it's going to be persistent, but it's going to be stored on the device, okay, on each user's phone. And cloud means it's going to be shared on the web. So I'm going to call this guy a cloud variable. I can't initialize it in the same way. I have to do something different. And I just have to make a couple changes in my code. And basically my change is I want to see if this variable notes, I want to see if it is equal to null. And if it is, so in other words, if it's the first time this app's ever been opened, then I need to initialize my notes variable to an empty list. Okay, and otherwise, I'm just gonna, in my list viewer, show my notes. Okay, that's all I got to do. I've just basically said I want my variable to be notes to be a cloud variable. Okay, and I need to do a little initialization, but now it's going to be stored persistently and stored in the cloud. Okay, so if I run this, sorry, I didn't want to run it that way. Let me go back to the designer. If I run it, and this would work the same on my phone, as I preview, nothing there, right? But if I type in what I appreciate, which is the green grass, sorry, not being too creative on that, there it is, and just say sunshine again. Okay, so I just entered 2 items, but if I go out and come back, my items are still there, so it's persistent. And, you know, kind of, you know, the other thing besides just persistent is I've really just built a chat app, right? Because the database is in the cloud, so any user that downloads my app, they're going to see, you know, it's basically shared data, right? So I just created a chat app, you know, by changing this variable to a cloud variable. You know, so Thunkable takes care of kind of the database on the back end, and this variable is persistent, right? It's a pretty cool idea. I mean, you could even think of such an idea for a textual language, right? It doesn't really have to be a visual language thing. All right, so how about questions on persistent variables? And I'm going to wait till I get at least one question from you about this concept. What about persistent variables? Wow, this 9 a.m. crowd is just fabulous. All right, I will continue on then. So that's persistent variables in Thunkable. Let me go back to my presentation. And kind of the next thing I want to talk about is coding with spreadsheet data. Okay, coding apps with dynamic data, you know, it's a big leap. And I just showed you an app with some dynamic data, but what about if you've got a big set of data in a spreadsheet somewhere, and, you know, maybe it's for data science or whatnot, or maybe it's just, you know, whatever, some spreadsheet you created, and Thunkable makes it real easy to use that. So I'm going to go back and demonstrate that. So let me bring up Thunkable. Oh, sorry, I want to show you one more thing. If you can, open this link. It's USF CS Thunk. And let me just open the spreadsheet. And if you can, add your name and your pick to this link. So if anybody's out there, come into this spreadsheet and add your name and your pick to the link. Okay, and you can get to it from this link right here to get to the spreadsheet. But you need to add your name, and then it's got to be a URL to your picture. Okay, so if you're awake out there and you can add that in, go ahead. And while people are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Thunkable and show you how to build this thing. So my goal here is to write an app where people can learn, you know, like meet your classmates, right? Or say the people in this group, everybody could meet each other, all right? And so I'm gonna go ahead and build that and show you how kind of easy it is to do with Thunkable. So I'm gonna call this, you know, CS Meetup. And I'm gonna create the app. And I'm just gonna put a label in at the top that just says, you know, what it is, CS Meetup. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is kind of connect my spreadsheet. And Thunkable's got a great component. It's called Data Viewer List, and you can bring it in, and then you can add a data source, right? One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change how things look. I'm going to show a picture and a title, so that's what my list is going to look like. But the first thing I need is a data source, and I can basically do whatever I want. I can create a new one. Okay, so I can go to Google Sheets and I can select any sheet I want. So very easily, I can connect any Google spreadsheet I have to my app. Okay, so I'm just going to choose this one and go ahead and create it. Okay, and then when I come down here, I just have to kind of map my, you know, the columns in my spreadsheet, right? So my columns are named name and pick. Okay, so in my columns for my pick, I'm going to choose the pick column, and for my text, I'm going to choose the name column. So just by doing that, I've kind of connected my spreadsheet, okay, my name and my pick, and that's what's going to show up here. Okay, so if I preview this, oh, cool, thank you, Alex Perry. You know, so here's you know, I did just have this spreadsheet with some data, and now I've got, you know, kind of meet my classmates, at least part of an app, right? And you know, it's kind of a nice view of showing the pictures and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so then the next step is let's do a little bit more with it. I'm going to add a second screen, which is, I don't know, I'll call it a person screen. So I'm going to rename my screen the person screen. And this is where I might put more information, right? I know I've only got 2 columns in my spreadsheet, but I might have more. But in this screen, I'm just going to add an image and a label. So here's my label. That's where I'm going to put the person's name. And then I'm going to add an image, which you have to scroll down to find the image category. Okay, and I'm going to make my image, I don't know, I'm just going to make it a little bigger. I'm going to make it 80%. Okay. Anyway, that's what my UI is going to look like. Back in screen 1, I'm going to add some blocks. Notice without any blocks, I kind of got my list view working. But I'm going to come over here, and anytime they choose an item in my list viewer, I'm going to do something. And kind of what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the person screen, right? The information screen. But before I do that, I'm going to set up a variable. I'm going to call this thing row ID. Okay, so when I get to the person screen, I want to show a particular person's information. Okay, so I'm going to have this variable called row ID. And kind of before I navigate, I'm going to set my variable row ID equal to this row ID that I get from my item click. So I don't know which item they're going to click, but it's going to tell me. This is called an event parameter, and I'm going to be able to set that variable. Okay, so anyway, when they choose things, I'm going to open this person screen, and I'm going to send that screen this kind of row ID. And these variables are kind of global variables to the whole app. Okay. Over in person screen, when the screen opens, I just want to show the image in the image property or component, and I want to show the name in the label component. Okay. And the nice thing is, in this data sources component, I've got a bunch of nice, really easy to use blocks. Okay. And in fact, I'm going to grab this get value from this spreadsheet, from this data source, and I'm going to grab the name, and then I'll copy it. And for the image, I'll grab the pic. Okay. And in my row ID, whoops, sorry. In my row ID, I need to use that variable I set in my other block. Okay, yeah, as you'll remember in screen 1, when they click the data viewer, I kind of stick that row ID into a variable. This event parameter is local. And it's hard to know that from Thunkable, but this is a local parameter. I can't use it anywhere else, but these variables are global. Okay, and so over here, I'm basically just grabbing that stuff and doing that. Back here on my main screen, I can preview again. We got a few more people. Alex Bradshaw, nice hat. But now if I click on a person, if my code's working, it's going to show, you know, some personal information. Okay, John, good picture. You didn't have a choice on this one, so thank you for that. But anyway, so the idea is here we just have a couple columns. This could be data of any kind, right? You could have multiple columns, and you know, kind of in about 5 minutes, I just created an app, you know, for kind of streaming through that information. And as you saw with the appreciation app, you can also make it where a user could input information here too, right? Obviously, you're not going to give the spreadsheet, you're not going to give the database out to the world, generally speaking, right? But I could have an input screen and code that. I could code it in a few minutes as well, where users could kind of, you know, put in their own picture or URL to their picture, or even, you know, there's a camera component, there's a photo component which gets you to your photos. But you know, all the user interface stuff is very immediate, and you can do whatever you want. There's also like a sound recorder, you know, if you want people to be able to record a little clip of them introducing themselves or something. Okay, anyway, so here's our kind of, you know, quick and dirty, you know, meet your classmates app. And if we wanted to, this is just a live tap, I could share this code with folks, generate link, and I could grab this link. And if you want to take a screenshot, go for it, or I can stick this in chat. Be careful with it because, I'm using my own Google Sheet. You would have to create your own Google Sheet for it. Okay, one where you're an owner. But anyway, if I can find my Zoom here, and I'm just going to put it in the chat here. But this is going to give you the Thunkable, source code, right? But then you could also go to download, and you could download iOS or Android. Okay. There's also a web version that you go to with Publish. All right. But if I download the iOS app, it takes about 10 minutes. It gives me a link, and that link allows people to install the app. But Apple's very careful, so you can only install one such kind of rogue app on your phone, right? So it's really just for testing, and you would have to go through the App Store to let people use it more broadly. Okay, let's see. All right, how about questions from folks thus far? All right, let me bring my screen up.
Dave, I have a question. Could you get around the App Store and do like a web app? Could Thunkable publish it as a web app?
Yeah, good, John. So Thunkable does provide a web app. So I could create a link and send that out, and you could run it on your phone in a browser, right? And if you click on the link, it will open it up like it's an app, but it's a web app. So that's a way to distribute stuff widely in that way. Unfortunately, you also have to be a pro version to make that for 25 bucks a month or whatever. But I'm working on the Thunkable folks to make that free. All right, so let me get back to the presentation. So anyway, that's coding with spreadsheet data. We built just kind of a simple but useful app, very quickly. But you might also think of it, for much more, right? For any kind of data that you kind of want to process, it's a real quick way to kind of get it into your app. All right, so I just want to kind of talk about digital divide and the programmer divide. We all know what digital divide is, but think of the programmer divide as who can code, who gets to learn how to code, and what does it mean, right? Underrepresented groups in computer science are basically everybody besides white and Asian men, okay, at least in the United States. The percentages are not good at all. I think it's between 20 and 30% in terms of women in computer science, and it's been this way for a long time. Anyway, something to think about. Why is it important? A couple reasons. One is equity and fairness, right, in our society, and so equity and fairness in our society, most of the best jobs, many of the best jobs, a little coding is really important. Not everybody's going to learn how to code, but certainly you want to give people that possibility, right? And unfortunately, that opportunity is not equal. The other part of it is we need better software, right? And so we need diversity in our software development systems. Think about even stuff like Facebook and social media software. Who is building that software? And it has a lot you know, it makes a big difference in our society, you know, who's coming to the table. So it kind of goes both ways, right? This is something about inclusivity, but it's also something that the world needs. So that's why we need diversity in CS. I already kind of showed you this picture about students coming to CS. But traditional CS education, I want you to think about this one. It works better, you know, for the puzzle doer person. And I don't mean to, you know, put people in categories, but there's, you know, I've had many students who, you know, you give them a problem, they're going to work on it because they want to solve it, right? They like to do puzzles. And they might also be creative problem solvers, but maybe they're not, or maybe they are or not. But I also get a bunch of students who are really smart. If you give them a real world problem, you know, something that really makes sense, you know, in the real world, they'll get into it, but they'll get caught up with the minutia and just say, I'm out of here. I don't like this. There's a great quote in a code.org video, and the quote goes, you know, if someone would have told me software was really about humanity and helping people, it would have changed my outlook a lot earlier. And that's from Vanessa Hurst. And if you get a chance, you know, check out that whole, there's a great code.org video that's kind of just promoting CS. But the basic idea is, wow, you know, we can do great things. What power is in your hands if you know how to code? But unfortunately, we lose a bunch of smart people early in the process. Code.org is great. What they kind of push is maze building. It's a great way to get started. And it's kind of creative, right? You know, you're creating, you know, code, you know, and it's kind of fun to see this stuff happen, but you're really not creating, you know, something new, right? You're not creating apps with code.org. There's Obama, you know, kind of the whole idea behind Appinventor and Thunkable is, you know, don't play on your phone, code it. And that's a great way to learn. Thunkable, you can build all kinds of stuff, games, quizzes, study guides, right? You can use maps and location sensors. You can use, like I showed you, you can build cloud apps very easily. You can build translation apps. You can build basically anything. It's pretty, you know, theoretically, Appinventor and Thunkable are both kind of full powered languages. Okay. Now there are some limitations just based on, you know, they haven't added every block and they don't have necessarily, you know, blocks for everything. Okay. But you know, there's no reason a blocks language couldn't be completely fully powered. Okay, so the basic idea is learn by creating, having fun. There's a bunch of educational, you know, theory, a term called constructionism, okay, and basically, you know, fancy wording terminology, but it basically means, you know, students really learn stuff when they're building things. So anyway, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, let me know and I can connect you to it. Okay, I just want to talk about Thunkable's use, you know, maybe for you all, or for, say, a grad student in computer science. You know, it's great for rapid prototyping, right? So, you know, a lot of times in school, we think about software development, how do you code? But, you know, in the real world, you're trying to actually solve problems. And kind of usually the first thing is, what is the problem, right? Or what is this great new idea? What is this app that we can build and either make some money or help people or whatever? So prototyping means let's build it very quickly, and then can we get people to you know, basically to get feedback, right? As early in the process, get feedback from either prospective users or maybe funders, right? And Thunkable and Appinventor are great for that. The minimally viable product, that's a little bit, that's not exactly the same as a prototype, right? Usually when we say MVP, we mean something we can actually sell and, you know, and people use in production, okay? But you know, it might be something you might use Appinventor or Thunkable for. Thunkable for situated apps. The idea here is, you know, not everything has to be mass, you know, for the masses, right? Like we think of, oh, how can I make this scale to zillions of users? But think about building apps for your mom or your workout club or your class. Sometimes it's called low code or no code software development. Those are kind of newer terms, but basically it means, we're not trying to change, change the world exactly. We're just trying to help our little group, right? Or we're trying to have a Christmas app for our grandma, right? Something like that. That's what a situated app is. And finally, think of Thunkable as a front end tool. In my 112 class, we always want to do some kind of, full app development or web development. And what we're doing this semester is using Thunkable on the front end, and then they're using Java and Google Cloud on the back end. But Thunkable, as opposed to learning HTML and CSS and all that stuff, it's a nice way to do front ends that you can actually build stuff for your phone, and it's not quite as complicated maybe as some of the other stuff. Sorry, and Thunkable is a front end tool. One thing I wanted to show you for you advanced coders, right, is the web API component in Thunkable allows you to basically call any website, right? And in this case, for my 112 students, what they did was they called their servlet, their Google Cloud tool, and it brought back JSON, and then Thunkable's got some nice blocks to handle JSON. Okay, anyway, takeaway, add Thunkable to your prototyping and rapid development arsenal, okay? Don't think of it as, oh, that's something kids do, or, think of it as something you might use in real life, right? To do things quickly and to get feedback on. And then maybe later, after you have that prototype, you code the thing, all the way out. Think about CS education, diversity issues. How can we improve the Launchpad? And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, definitely contact me. Because this is my thing. I love CS education. Finally, your job, to take away is promote the learning of code. And great Christmas idea is this great new Thunkable book available at Amazon, $9.99. You can turn one of your nieces, nephews, your uncles and aunts, maybe even your grandma, turn them into coders with this book. So anyway, go get the book. All right, let's see. Am I sharing screen still? Was I sharing screen?
Not for like the last 15 minutes.
Oh my God. Thank you.
You shared your slide deck up.
Huh?
You shared your slide deck, so I was able to follow along still, but I don't know if everyone else is following along. So I was good.
Okay. This has not been the most wonderful interactive audience. That's okay. Thank you, everyone. Anyway, does anyone have questions about stuff?
If folks are feeling extra shy, you can also add it in the chat and I can ask Dr. Wolber.
I guess I have a question on just how to like use this to, I guess, promote tech literacy. You mentioned that you're pretty passionate about that, but how does one student just go about like doing that?
Yeah, thank you, Terry. Yeah, no, I think there's a couple ways. Definitely one is, and we've had a lot of students from USF get jobs with, various programs in the community. There's all kinds of them, right? And they're, if you're anybody's having trouble getting an internship or maybe just are interested in teaching, those jobs are very, very easy to come by. And, basically you can go out, teach kids. It's either can be daytime programs or after school programs, and you can do it that way. The other way is, like, I've had a lot of students work with me, basically either, developing on the Appinventor tool itself. So coding for Appinventor, they've kind of, they kind of have an open source, or we have a kind of a work with them, or, building kind of educational stuff, like working on something like appinventor.org, which reaches, 50,000 people a month, right? So So there within the stuff I've been doing here at school, there's stuff that you could definitely get involved in, but also just, like, Black Girls Code, Technovation, and then there's a bunch of local groups too to get involved with. So I think that's a good way to do it.
What are some of those like local groups?
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think of the name of the one that we've sent the most students to. I don't know. I'll have to. I can send those to you, Terry. Yeah, but through the San Francisco Unified School District, or these kind of more nonprofit groups. But I can get those names for you. Edmund had a question. Are there any limitations with block coding? Can you supplement the block coding with normal code? Great question, Edmund. Mainly the limitations are, really the limitations are, what do they allow you to do on the phone, right? Because you can get to a web API, so you're not really limited in that way. You can get to any Java code you want, but you can't necessarily get to Java code that actually has access to things on the phone or on the device, right? So there you're limited to whatever Thunkable kind of provides you to get there. But you do have the connection to data and kind of the model, right? That kind of code. But there are limitations, and it's just based on what they've provided for the user interface and basically all the power that the device has. With Appinventor, we built something called the Appinventor Java Bridge, where you can actually generate Java code and then work on it there. So that's a little bit of a different thing. But yeah, the limitations are there, but you can build most anything you want with these tools. All right. Well, anyway, folks, thanks very much. I appreciate everybody being here, and hope to see you all in person very soon. And thanks, John, for setting this up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave, for hosting today's session. And we will next week. I will be live on campus with some of our students who are coming to USF and to the US for the first time. So for those of you who log in, you'll get to see USF's campus live, which will be, for some of us, the first time in 7 or 8 months. But thank you so much, Dr. Wolber. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and hope to see you all next week.
All right, bye-bye, everyone. See you later.